During my time at DePaul, I have worked on a number of student productions, and by the end of the production, I am always shocked by the amount of waste that was created. I've had a growing interest in learning the ecological impacts of filmmaking, so I decided this project was the perfect opportunity for me to do so. While this is an expansive topic and too much to fully cover and understand in 2 weeks, I've tried my best to find the most valuable resources and provide a detailed and informational presentation. In 2006, UCLA conducted a 2-year study to analyze the environmental impact filmmaking has. The main challenges they discovered are as follows. The first and one of the more major challenges is that the film and television industry is controlled by short-lived production companies rather than by long-term firms in stable supply chains. This makes it difficult to institutionalize best practices. The second challenge is the CO2 levels that are generated from film sets. The 2006 study found that California's film and television industry alone created 8.4 million metric tons of carbon dioxide, and the US film and television industry as a whole created 15 million tons of CO2. The third challenge is the material waste buildup and the deforestation that the film industry causes. Actor and environmental activist Ed Begley Jr. is cited in the study saying that a single soundstage can be responsible for destroying nearly 9,900 acres of rainforest. For reference, that is equivalent to roughly 9,000 sports fields. The film industry also creates an enormous amount of material waste through sets, paper, construction, travel, and more. The study outlined some solutions that individual productions were taking to offset their ecological impact. The first example was from the production of The Day After Tomorrow, directed by Roland Emmerich, who prides himself as being an environmental activist. During the production of any motion picture, carbon dioxide is directly created by vehicles, trailers, generators, and various machinery. Emmerich worked with a company called Future Forests. Future Forests determined that the film would generate approximately 10,000 tons of CO2. The study cites that several industry sources confirm that the cost of the corresponding carbon offsets was about $200,000, which was paid by Emmerich and several of his associates. The second example was from the production of the Matrix 2 and 3 films. Across the numerous sets built for these Matrix films, 11,090 tons of material consisting of concrete, lumber, steel, and other materials was used. A nonprofit organization that deconstructs buildings called the Reuse People stepped in to help after filming completed. The Reuse People managed to recycle 97.5% of the materials. A team of 18 people moved in after filming was completed, and they worked for 124 days to dismantle the sets and process and distribute the saved materials. A quote from the study states, 37 truckloads of lumber were reused in housing for low-income families in Mexico, and all the steel was recycled. Since the 2006 study, the film industry has continued to carry on the same practices with little attention to sustainability. The British Film Institute has been one of the recent leading members in the industry trying to tackle the issue of waste management. They conducted a joint field research study with BAFTA in 2019 in order to gather a better understanding of not only the impact filmmaking has on the environment, but to also begin constructing a plan to combat that. There were a few main challenges that this study found. The first was a lack of consistent data monitoring of carbon emissions throughout the industry. This makes it difficult to monitor any change occurring. The US uses an alternative system to calculate carbon and track sustainability certifications. While the US system has some overlap with the Albert Consortium system that the UK uses, there is no quote unquote common standard and sustainability practices, and they can vary greatly between productions. The second challenge they uncovered was a lack of publicly available data about the scale of the environmental challenge facing the film industry and the current sustainability practices. Part of this issue is due to the fact that the Producers Guild of America limits public domain reporting, and won't adopt the Albert Consortium tools for their UK productions. All UK-based productions utilize the Albert Consortium system for ecological practices on set. The PGA also retains data for in-house use only. Climate change and sustainability is also a low priority in the face of commercial pressures. There is a perception that additional time and costs are involved with adopting a new behavior in film production. Therefore, productions tend to stick to their tried and true methods, products, and services. The final issue presented was the high levels of disposability in filmmaking, from single-use plastic to throwaway fashion. While some productions have addressed this, there's an issue of consistency. Practices vary from set to set because there are no mandatory requirements on US studios to operate sustainable production practices in particular. The BFI study also outlines some specific factors of filmmaking that impact the environment. Large production budgets tend to lead to a larger carbon footprint. The production office and transportation of people have a consistent impact across all styles of program making. Generators have a large negative impact on the size of the carbon footprint of a production. The study states that the carbon impact of materials, sets, paper, construction is relatively small in comparison to the other impacts measured. Productions often use lawan wood, which is typically harvested from rainforests and is a massive source of deforestation. The BFI identified some solutions and beneficial practices. Technology is aiding in some efficient mechanisms for reducing waste and the use of consumable items. For example, production office systems can now go paperless by using online call sheets. Setless productions have a lower environmental footprint than construction-based shoots, based on the type of setless production though. The ones that use computer-generated scenery and motion capture are the ones referenced here. The move from 35mm film to digital storage has also been beneficial to reducing our environmental impact. In 2013, the role of the environmental coordinator was developed and has become a more defined role on set since. The BFI study states that environmental coordinators are hired as crew working within the production office and liaising with the unit production manager, the production manager, and the production supervisors, as well as the heads of departments. Their role is to manage each production's approach to sustainability in line with the studio's corporate policies. UK studio-backed features have a dedicated budget line for environmental action. This budget covers everything from environmental coordinator fees, the cost of acquiring a green kit, managing waste responsibly, and creating environmental messaging for the crew. Some studios, such as NBC Universal's UK studio, implemented some specific environmental action plans. Their plan includes composting and recycling, reusable water bottles, a catering team that donated unwanted food, the use of biodiesel heaters, and hybrid cars for crew vehicles. These are just a few of many initiatives that they implemented. The BFI also encourages that productions identify and use green vendors in the supply chain. Outside of the larger studies that have been conducted, there are reports of individual production damages to the environment. In 2011, a contractor hired to work on the film The Expendables damaged a protected bat habitat. In 2015, Mad Max Fury Road damaged sensitive areas on the African Atlantic coast during filming. They endangered local reptiles and cacti. In 2017, the crew of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, allegedly dumped chemical waste while filming in Queensland, Australia, potentially tainting local water. The list doesn't end here though. There are other reports of film sets damaging the ecosystem around them. Big blockbuster films that have a budget over $70 million produce an average of 2,840 tons of carbon dioxide per production. This is the equivalent to the amount of carbon dioxide that is absorbed by 3,700 acres of forest in 1 year. A BAFTA study found that a single hour of television produced in the UK, fiction or nonfiction, produces 13 metric tons of carbon dioxide. This is equivalent to the carbon footprint of a flight from London to New York. An average day of filming equates to more than one person's annual carbon footprint. In the BFI's A New Screen Deal Sustainability Action Plan, they found that for a typical tentpole production, resource consumption data analysis shows energy consumption could power Times Squares for 5 days. It could fuel consumption could fill an average car tank 11,478 times. The air miles equates to 11 one-way trips from Earth to the moon. The waste generation equates to the weight of 313.5 blue whales. The plywood use amounts to the volume of 2.5 cargo planes. Finally, the plastic bottle usage equates to the yearly average use of 168 people. This is all created from just one tentpole production. So where do we go from here? Well, there are some amazing companies and nonprofits working to combat these issues. I've discussed a few earlier, Future Forests and the Reuse People, but there are more. Earth Angels was created by Emily O'Brien, who witnessed firsthand the waste created on film sets. Earth Angels offers a menu of services to production studios, sound stages, film offices, production vendors, and many other organizations supporting this industry. When Earth Angels is brought on set, they create an eco department. The eco department addresses the 4 key areas that need to be implemented into sustainable production practices. These 4 key areas are strategy, staff, stats, and stuff. Strategy is customized sustainability programs. This includes education tactics, collaboration with local charities and communities, green supply chains, and more. Staff is a skilled eco crew that implements the strategy. They recruit and screen staff, and more specifically, recruit eco production assistant candidates. They also train the staff and support the strategy. The stats is the data collection, analysis, and reporting. And finally, the stuff consists of eco supplies and equipment, materials management, and repurposing. How can we create change moving forward? On a lower scale, we can implement Earth Angels practices and the PGA green production practices. Education is key in this. It's important to put in the work to educate yourself through these free resources. At NYU Tisch, a group of film students attempted to implement all of these initiatives on set. They managed to reduce waste by significant amounts. I'll link the video with this presentation. On a larger scale, there are measures that can be taken as we all enter the professional workplace. I personally am working to be a producer and will be proactive in implementing sustainable measures on film productions. Environmental coordinators are a great addition to film sets and should be more common. A few of the major studios practice carbon offsetting, but once again, it's the exception, not the rule. It's crucial that we work to make and implement a universal environment plan for all film productions. At the minimum, large productions should budget for hiring companies like Earth Angels, the Reuse People, Future Forests, or others. We are an industry that prides ourselves on creating beautiful imagery, and yet we are aiding in the destruction of our beautiful planet. We cannot continue on the route we are on. I hope that each of you listening will carry some of these practices with you and be part of the change in sustainability for film productions.